Oh, g'day everyone, it's Warren here from NQ Explorers. Another walk and talk today into some industrial ruins deep in the bush. I'm in my hometown of Newcastle, New South Wales, and the last time I was here was in 1974, so it was 40 plus years ago when I was at high school, and we had an orienteering event here in the bush, and we started here at the Aberdare South Colliery, which was in ruins then because it had been abandoned in 1927. Access then was a lot easier and there was a lot more of it, but I'll show you what remains today and a little bit of the history of this mine, which is a deep coal mine on the Aberdare seam south of Cessnock. Beautiful old brick winding house, a magnificent chimney that seems to be excessively tall for where we are in the middle of the bush, and it would have been even more remote in 1927. Anyway, let's have a look around. Thanks for joining me. Lovely sound of the bellbirds in the background there. I've had to walk in because obviously I'm in a hire car. I'm in the Newcastle area, I'm not home in Queensland. Would have brought the Defender in here no trouble, but you see they've got these bog holes. Someone's come to grief here because there's the remnants of a snatchum strap here stuck in the mud, so someone had a bit of grief here. You can see where they've got out of the up out that way. Just made a big mess of the track. Really a bit off walking into these sort of places. Okay, so this is the winding house at Aberdare South. A huge structure for a mine that existed for only 14 years. Unfortunately, it'd be nice without the graffiti, but people have got to do that, they have to, I suppose. But anyway, as you can see, it's got these beautiful big cathedral windows. They were all glass. They were glassed, it was sealed. There's actually some window glass laying on the ground there. Part of the corrugated iron roof remains. It's almost a cathedral-like structure. Once again, I'd like to say how wonderful the brickwork is and what pride these men took in their work. Look at the arches. Like, none of this was necessary, of course, for a colliery, but that's what they did. It's just beautiful. Beautiful ruin in the bush. And I don't think this is heritage listed, and it should be. You can see this huge arch at the front, which are the main winding cables went up to the poppet head, which is off to our right. That's gone now, and it's the shaft sealed off. It's a very large complex. That was still here when I was last here in 1974. But let's have a look around this magnificent old structure. So I'm not doing any metal detecting today, it's just a walk and talk. Two reasons. One is you don't find a lot of, decent relics at old industrial sites. Things like coal mines. The men didn't live here, and there was no reason to bring any money here if you're looking for coins and that kind of thing. I mean, you might get the odd drop here and there, but it's quite overgrown. And two, I'm not really sure of the heritage status of this building. It's not heritage listed, but I don't want to go digging in the ground if I don't. I've got to always be sure of what I'm doing when I'm metal detecting, as you should be. It just brings the hobby into disrepute if we go in with the attitude, ask forgiveness, not permission. So I won't do any metal detecting. Let's have a look around at the substantial ruins of the old colliery. Well, I'll just keep the camera rolling and you can discover things as I do. This is the winding equipment end of the old winding house. So there would have been a massive steam pump, a beam pump or something like in here. There's the chimney over there, but you probably can't see that real well at the moment. We'll go and have a close look at that. That was obviously for the steam pump that ran the winding equipment, the ventilation equipment for the coal mine. Now that's all flooded in there, as you'd expect. We had such a wet year here in Australia on the east coast. Not so much in WA, but definitely on the east coast. Now over here on the right, heavily overgrown, you would have the foundations for the winding equipment and the poppet head, because the shaft is just over in there. So you had this massive lattice steel poppet head with the big winding wheels on the top. The cables came out of this cathedral-like structure and down into the pit. It was a pit. It was a vertical shaft. It wasn't a adit or a drive. It was mining deep coal seams. So let's have a look through this way. There's a chimney over further in the bush. We've got a bit of lantana to deal with, but we'll go over there and have a look at the chimney. Here's some sort of pit lined in brick. You've got to watch your footing around here. It's heavily overgrown. I mean, it's been abandoned for nearly 100 years. 1927. As I said, when I was back here in 74, it wasn't this overgrown. It was quite open. I don't think there were any administrative buildings close to this spot. There would have been. That's the place I'd look with a metal detector if I was going to do it, but I'm not. Yeah, that's definitely the foundation with the poppet head. Big brick structure. That'll be founded deep down on the sandstone layer. And the chimney's over here. Here's the chimney. It's around 30 metres. Magnificent chimney. Got some bricks missing from the top. Obviously there's been lightning strikes and no maintenance for 100 years, but it's a heck of a structure. Incredibly, there's still some of the old downpipe from the... Look, they even went to the effort of putting a gutter on it, on the roof. And they got a downpipe coming down here to a stormwater pit. Very tidy. Okay, we're at the base of the chimney now. They've set those iron ladder. Like, who climbed that thing? No safety gear in the 1920s, was there? Imagine climbing that. Why would you need to? Incredible. Yeah, it's a great place to dump your rubbish, everyone. Righto, let's go over and have a look inside the big winding house over here. Okay, light's not ideal, it's early in the morning, I'm filming into the sun. The floor in there is flooded. We've got these sub-floor areas. I don't know if people worked in there, what's going on with that. But look at these cathedral windows. It's framed in wrought iron. You can see some of the glass still remains in the archwork up the top. Beautifully elaborate. For a mine that was only here 14 years. Incredible. Okay, what's the story with the coal around here? Well, East Coast coal in Australia is a massive resource. It actually stretches most of the way up the Great Dividing Range. There's a sedimentary layer of coal. From the Illawarra, which is very rich, under Sydney, Newcastle, up through the north coast to Queensland. Now here in the Newcastle area, the seams are quite shallow and hence it's been a huge coal mining area since actually the 1790s. The first coal was exported from Newcastle in 1797. They came out of Nobby's Hill on the beach there when it was a convict outpost. So enormously lengthy history of high quality, low ash coal. Just about the best coal in the world around here. It's exported all over the world, and of course big customers, New South Wales Railways and Adelaide Steamship Company in the days of steam in the mid to late 1800s and up to the First World War. Now after the First World War and into the Second World War, the colliery started to fade. And they weren't necessarily worked out, these seams. They were just down to the water. There was too much work required to bring the coal up, and there was less and less dependence on coal. So once the railways went to diesels in the late 40s, early 50s, that was a huge market for coal. It wasn't required. And of course, home heating in Newcastle particularly, and Sydney, was all based on coal. So it got pretty sooty and foggy on a cold winter's night back here in those days, because everyone was burning coal, apart from all the industrial work that was going on. The steel works and the wire rope works and the shipbuilding in Newcastle, massive industrial enterprises that needed lots and lots of coal, millions of tonnes of coal. Now it was served by, this area was served by an extensive railway network. It was a private industrial railway, standard gauge, 4 foot 8.5. And the famous 10 class tank locomotives, I'll put up a photograph of a 10 class, or maybe a video if I can find one, operated in this area until the 1980s. They were the last steam engines in revenue service in Australia, not counting the tourist railways. I'm talking about revenue industrial service. The government railways had abandoned their steam in the late 60s, and into the 70s some of the state railway networks, but the private coal lines here used steam until 1984, 85 I think it was. I remember seeing them as a kid. They were chuffing around all over the place here. So there's a branch railway came to here, to Aberdare South. We'll go and have a look and see if we can find some remnants of the railway infrastructure. It's dense bush and there's lots of lantana and blackberries, but we'll see what we can find. So all private railways. They went into Hexham to the, there was a big coal washing facility there, and out to the coal loaders in the Hunter in Newcastle Port. I don't really know why this mine closed in 1927. They actually built the town of Abernethy, which isn't far from here, only a couple of K, to support the mine. And the pub opened to support the mine, and just after the pub opened, the mine closed. So I'm not really sure why the mine closed in 1927. Might have been part of the rationalisation of the business at the time. It was started with John Brown, the Brown brothers, J&A Brown, in the 1800s. And then by the 1920s, there was a different company name, but I'll subtitle that. The railways are run by the South Maitland Railways, SMR, and they ran all the 10 class locomotives into this site, using the old wooden hopper wagons, non-air trains, just tree-link couplings, bang, 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 all the way down the line as they started and stopped. So pretty awesome stuff, but all gone now. And look at this magnificent legacy to these coal miners. The men that built this, like, incredibly elaborate building, enormous building. Anyway, that's a little bit of potted history of the Aberdare South mine, long abandoned, almost 100 years. We'll go for a walk down the colliery dam there and have a look at that. There's quite a substantial dam, lots of bird life on that now, and see if we can find some railway infrastructure that serviced this colliery back in the early 1900s. There's an old photo I discovered that I'll put up on the video that was taken from the other side of the dam when the colliery was in operation. In this area here, you might be able to see the dam through the bush there was what looked like a couple of administrative buildings, but it's heavily overgrown now with this tussock grass. Like I said, we've had so much rain that the vegetation is rampant. There's going to be some terrible bushfires this summer, unfortunately. Bushfire Brigade's going to be kept busy. Just try to film it now while the sun's a bit obscured by that cloud. You can see the top of the chimney. It's badly cracked and there's a lot of bricks missing, so that's definitely lightning. There's no lightning rod extant, so the old girl's going to come down one day. But it stood the test of time. 100 years is pretty good. Well, on the way in I met a couple of locals. It was a father and son in their four-wheel drive out enjoying the bush. They're just locals. They live just over the other side of the hill here. Very welcoming. Helped me out with directions, although I knew where I was going. Well, I had a good idea. I knew where I was going. When you come to these places, talk to the locals, respect the locals, spend money in town. That's what I always do. Buy fuel, have a bit of lunch there. That's what I'm going to go and do now, have a bit of lunch in town. Enjoy the Aussie bush. don't run around in your four-wheel drive chopping up tracks or dumping rubbish and lighting fires. Just don't do it. We all love this and we all own it, so let's all enjoy it together. So if you've got a high clearance four-wheel drive, you'll definitely get down to the Colliery Dam. This is the track. It's heavily rutted and there's a couple of mud puddles. Like I said, don't hit the mud puddles when they're wet. Wait for them to dry out, but that's no trouble for a high clearance vehicle. You probably wouldn't even need four-wheel drive. Wouldn't have any trouble with the Defender, but I haven't got it with me today. But as I said, I wouldn't drive around to the old ruins. The track's just too sketchy and you're just going to get stuck somewhere. You do it on a dirt bike, but take a bushwalk. It's a lot more fun. Okay, what you can see down deep in this cutting is the portal of one of the abandoned brick-lined tunnels on the old Richmond Vale Railway. Beautiful brick arch tunnel. There's 3 in the system. This is number 3 tunnel. It's heavily overgrown down there. I don't want to get any closer to the edge or this video will end real quick. But that's the old road bed of the railway. That's not the Aberdare South branch, but this is the main line to into the port. Where the South Maitland Railways hauled their coal from all the... they had a very large railway network in the area. Private railway network, 4 foot 8.5 gauge, standard gauge. That's from the old tunnel portals. I'll attempt to get down there, but it's going to take a while. I might have a crack at it, but otherwise, that's some of the old railway infrastructure. Okay, I've climbed down to the old railway right-of-way. This is the old railway alignment. Very difficult to see. Down there, we'll get down there later maybe, is the Timber Trestle Surveyors Creek Bridge. It's quite a big bridge. And up behind the camera is the portal to number 3 tunnel that I showed you from higher up. I'm going to endeavour to get in there along the railway easement. I don't know if it's going to be possible. There's a lot of blackberries and it's pretty overgrown, but we'll see how we go. Wish me luck. Okay, so here we've actually got a rail laying on the old road bed. 2 rails actually, a short one and a long one. Not in real good nick. Okay, I'm about 100 metres from the tunnel portal now. Look at the amount of earth they removed to get to this tunnel. Incredible. You can see where they had a need for a tunnel. It goes deep under that ridge up there, but wow. They should have dug a lot of dirt out in the 1880s, 1890s when they built the line. Blackberries, typical of what you get in this area around Newcastle and the old mine workings and railways. Getting close. It's only a short straight tunnel, I can see straight out the other side. Might be able to walk through it, eh? I didn't bring my tactical torch, but we'll see how we go. It's probably full of water. Yeah. Might get a bit boggy real soon. So that's where I was up earlier on. Just up there I was. There's an old fence post up there I was filming. I decided, well, come on, I might as well make the effort to look at the tunnel. Oh, the blackberries. Isn't that awesome? Look at that brickwork. Brick lined all the way through. Typical of the tunnels that like the New South Wales Government Railways built. This is a private tunnel. You got that egg-shaped, wide-hipped arch tunnel, and you can see there's a retaining wall on top, made out of different bricks, or maybe that was added later. They might have had a bit of erosion and landfall coming down over onto the track. So this is the No. 3 Tunnel. I guess this is the eastern portal. I'll have to check my compass. Based on the sun's position, it's the eastern portal. Oh, it's nice and cool down in here. It's pretty short, probably 80 or 90 metres long. I'll put that data on the video. Under a fairly high ridge line, but yeah, it's so, look, so much driven through there. That's pretty boggy in there. Good on them. Yeah, brick lined arch all the way through, and a big lake down the other end. I'm not going to go in there. I've got boots on, but could end up wheels up in the mud somewhere. This is the Richmond Vale main line. It didn't directly serve that abandoned Aberdare South Colliery we were at this morning with the engine house and the chimney. It was part of J&A Brown's network that went from the Hexham coal washing plant across the Hexham swamp, as it was known, to Stockrington, and then Minmai, and then out here to these his mines in the South Maitland coalfields. It was a separate network to the South Maitland Railways. This became it was J&A Brown, then it became Jabas, J&A Brown, Abernethy collieries, and then Coal and Allied took it over in the 70s, I think, and they were in control of it when it was abandoned in the mid-80s. And they were, like I said, they were the last commercially used steam locomotives in Australia. And they were the South Maitland Railways 10 class. Now Jabas, or J&A Brown, had a large fleet of their own steam locomotives, all steam, including, interestingly, a big fleet, I think it was 14 of the ROD 280s, the Railway Operating Division. They were built in the UK for the First World War as emergency war engines, and they bought 14 after the war, First World War, as surplus war stock, and they used them on this line through this tunnel. Beautiful locomotives. So most of the locomotives on this line were imported from England. Principal locomotives were the ROD 280s, but they also had a sprinkling of other different types of English locomotives, whereas the SMR had the 10 class, which was Australian designed and built. So anyway, that's the No. 3 tunnel portal on the old Richmond Main Railway. Pretty awesome, isn't it? Now we'll go down the other way and see if we can find that Surveyors Creek Bridge. I'm sure we can find it, but what I mean is if I can get through the blackberries to get to it. If not, we'll say goodbye for now. There's actually talk of making this into a rail trail, you know, for horse riding and bike riding, mountain biking. It's quite long, 34, 32 kilometres or something like that, with the 3 tunnels. Obviously the bridges couldn't be used, but clearly the trains are never coming back. There's no purpose for them to come back. The coal's all gone. It'd be nice to see the rail trail. That's going to be a bit of work for someone, but I know there's lobby groups doing it, but you know, that'd be nice to, so people can access these things. This is beautifully preserved. I mean, that's because of the workmanship that was put into it in the first place. So more people that get to enjoy it, the better.